Welcome to Sunday Night Live, the online television magazine programme for Christians across the UK. This week, the pubs are open, so the street pastors are back in action. Rapping to highlight the threat of knife crime amongst young people. After a year of lockdown, a report from mercy ships who've been kept really busy. And news of the Dad Adventure Challenge. And if you find the programme today interesting and enjoyable, please remember to press the subscribe and like buttons so that you'll be reminded of the programme next week and more people will get the chance to watch it. Hello again from me, Pam Rhodes. Welcome to this week's edition of Sunday Night Live. And later on this week, on Thursday, the 13th of May, which is Ascension Day, for the following 10 days, right through till Pentecost Sunday, which is the 30th of May, that huge global prayer movement, Thy Kingdom Come, which is organised every year by the Anglican Church, will be uniting Christians of all ages and backgrounds in prayer. Now, this is the new anthem for Thy Kingdom Come this year, featuring some very well-known faces from the world of Christian music. We seek Thy Kingdom.
We seek your kingdom throughout every sphere.
We Seek Your Kingdom, the new anthem of Thy Kingdom Come. Now, we have all waited a long time for the restrictions of lockdown to be eased so that we can start to enjoy life the way we used to. And so in towns and cities across the country, there has been an enthusiastic reaction to the news that pubs are now able to welcome customers again. So on Saturday night, in the centre of the city of Newcastle, the street pastors were out and our own Ian Britton was out there with them.
Street Pastors was pioneered in the UK in 2003 by the Reverend Les Isaac. It started out on the streets of Brixton, London, and has grown into a well-respected network of volunteers who are out on our streets engaging with people, caring for them, listening to them, and helping them. Since the launch of Newcastle Street Pastors in December 2008, they've worked together with other partners in the nighttime economy to make Newcastle safer. Now, as the pubs and clubs start to reopen, the street pastors have returned to the streets, complete with all their PPE kit. I joined Joan Stewart and her team as they went out on patrol in the city of Newcastle to see and hear firsthand the difference they can make.
This is our first night out in over a year. Street Pastors, we've had a couple of teams out over the last few weeks because the pubs were starting to open outside and we felt it was necessary for us to be there when people were out and about in Newcastle still. We've had to do lots of preparation to be able to come out. First of all, we had to do training about wearing these goggles and the masks and keeping ourselves safe. And what we could wear and what we couldn't wear. And social distancing, we had a street pastor who is a nurse at the RVI in charge of infectious diseases who did all the training, which was really great for us to be able to do that. And so there's been 2 or 3 teams out, and this is my first night out. We've got a good team, finding it very different out tonight. There's not the crowds like we normally have. It's been good. We've walked a lot and we've gone around and we've met people and we've talked with people. Homeless people are still around, still just as normal. But at the where you would see people who are drinking, they're all sitting at tables, which is very different. They're not all running around drunk. But we have come across 1 or 2 people who needed our help. We've had to get the St. John's ambulance to a young girl who was very intoxicated. And one of our street pastors has just gone to check on her again and to see if she's okay. We've met a guy who was from Albania, but unfortunately we couldn't help an awful lot, got a bit angry, he's had terrible experiences and he's a refugee here. We've just been called to another girl who, up at the Centre for Life, who had been very drunk, but by the time we got there, we were ready to get her into a taxi. So there's still people around that need our help and people around willing to talk. We've just talked to a homeless guy who we've just found out that's become a Christian just very recently by reading his Bible, and that was quite an encouragement to us. He's been helped by Oasis in Gateshead. So there's lots of people around who want our help. It's just nice to talk to people, giving them Mars bars and things like that and just having a bit of fun with folk and just people who are enjoying themselves. But there's always the few who are, have too much to drink and need our help. But that's what we're here for, and that's what we do it for. Trying to share the love of Jesus in a practical way with people on the streets.
It was clear as we moved around the city that everybody was absolutely delighted to see that the street pastors were back out on the street. That really was a sign of hope. And in particular, the door staff were really delighted to see them.
I just love doing it. I've missed being not out for a year. I just felt all those years ago that God led me and my husband to do this work, and that desire has never really faded, and just get a sense of worth helping other people, because people do come out and they get themselves into a pickle at times, and it's just lovely to be able to make sure they get home safely. That's the main thing. If we can share the love of Jesus with them, that's even better, or pray with them. That doesn't always happen, but we're out here just as God's servants, and I'm just pleased to be able to do that.
Well, it might have been a thankfully quiet night in Newcastle for the street pastors on Saturday evening, but the variety of situations they could come across at any time might be just meeting groups of very happy drunk people or arguments involving gangs and possibly knives. The threat of knives is a real worry for young people today, as Josh Green shares with us now in his own inimitable style.
Tonight, a special Granada reports on knife crime, one of the most serious issues we'll ever face.
Every 14 minutes, there's a knife crime across England and Wales.
Let's face it doesn't take much to get stabbed in our society today. Bottom line.
Said that too many years ago, but we ain't got no problems, here we go. Mothers crying in the streets, too many tears they've sown. This time we have to speak out, too many years we've known that knife crime's on the rise, young kids losing lives. Tell me how we sleep tonight, cause we gotta do something. Man, as kids dying, we can't do nothing. See, there's more to life. You were born to fly, you ain't born to die. Man, it's time to rise, put down the knives. Choose hope, choose peace, start choosing life. Yeah, I need you when it's dark and it's hard. Yeah, I need you. Yeah, be the real you. You were made for more, so be the real you. Cause I've been there too. Now I gotta let this light come shine through. Let them see you. You were born to fly, the world needs you. Oh, you've been trying to fly with broken wings. Oh, gotta give this life your everything. Cause there's more to life. Put down your knives, you were born to fly. Cause there's more to life. Put down your knives, you were born to fly. Yeah, it's raging in these rough season. I've been feeling like lately it's a tough season. Got my head up to the sky, I'm looking for a reason. It's clearer by the day that we need Jesus. So we're praying that you save us from this cancer. We got questions, but I know I got the answer. I just wanna see you wake up in the morning. There is hope, a new day's dawning. Oh, you've been trying to fly with broken wings. Oh, gotta give this life your everything. Cause there's more to life. Put down your knives, you were born to fly. Cause there's more to life. Put down your knives, you were born to fly. Oh, you've been trying to fly with broken wings. Oh, gotta give this life your everything. Cause there's more to life. Put down your knives, you were born to fly. Cause there's more to life. Put down your knives, you were born to fly. Yeah, I need you when it's dark and it's hard. Yeah, I need you. Be the real you. You were made for more, so be the real you. Cause I've been there too. Now we're gonna let this light come shine through. Let them see you. You were born to fly. The world needs you.
Hi, my name is Deborah Green. I'm the founding director of the Christian charity Redeeming Our Communities, ROC. We are people of goodwill working together towards safer, kinder communities. And I'm passionate to see ways that we can connect together, working together for the well-being of our community, to see the serious issue of knife crime addressed in our nation. But I'm also speaking to you today as the mother of Josh, who wrote and performed Born to Fly. I'm so proud of him for producing that music video, and it moves me to tears. Our sons and our daughters are being affected by this serious issue of knife crime, and lives are being lost and families torn apart with grief. In the year up to March 2020, there were 46,000 cases of knife crime in England and Wales. All of those tell a tragic story of young lives lost, of those who perpetrate those crimes, who use knives to hurt other people, also devastated by the implications of what they've done. Lives changed forever in 1 second. by the use of a knife. I was speaking to a 15-year-old boy from Northamptonshire recently who told me, I am the only boy in my class who doesn't carry a knife. This is a huge issue. What can we do? We can pray and we can work together to see knife crime reduced. Send this video to your local school. Use it as a prayer tool in church. Get in touch with us at Rock. We'd love to hear from you, and please spread the word so that young people can hear a better message about their future.
A little bit of love goes a long, long way. A little love, a little love, a little bit of love, and I'm on my way. A little love, a little love, a long way, but we'll get there together. A long way, but we'll get there soon. Along the way, we can lean on each other. A little love goes a long, long way. A little love, a little love, a little bit of love, and the sun comes shining. A little love, a little love, a little bit of kindness and someone smiling. A little love, a little love, a long way, but we'll get there together. A long way, but we'll get there soon. Along the way, we can lean on each other. A little love goes a long, long way. A little love, a little love. Little drops of rain can trickle down into a puddle, then the puddles get together, making streams that make a river. The rivers fill the valleys with a roaring and a rushing, then the little drops of rain have made a wide, 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 wide ocean. A long way, but we'll get there together. A long way, but we'll get there soon. Along the way, we can lean on each other. A little love goes a long, long way. A long way, but we'll get there together. A long way, but we'll get there soon. Along the way, we can lean on each other. A little love goes a long, long way. A little love, a little love, a little love.
Well, knowing that travel across the world has been greatly restricted over the past year, I couldn't help wondering what the charity Mercy Ships has been able to do when their ships are docked. But it seems that they have been busier than ever, responding to needs that are more urgent than before. Here's Darren Richards from Mercy Ships UK to tell us more.
Isn't it interesting how when something we take for granted is taken away, even temporarily, we suddenly realise just how valuable it is to us. That's how I feel about medical care and hospitals. We've not all been able to get the dental treatment we need when we have a toothache or a doctor's appointment, or perhaps our surgery or operation has been cancelled. And what we've realised is, I guess, metaphorically speaking, in this pandemic, we are all going through the same storm, but we're not all in the same ship. For us, those appointments are starting to return. We're getting our medicines through, we're getting our appointments back. And even my own family, I know, are accessing those things. But for those who live in the poorest African nations, those things were never there to begin with. My name's Darren Richards and I work for Mercy Ships UK, and we passionately believe that everyone in this world needs access and should get access to vital life-saving surgery and healthcare when they need it. It's not just our loved ones, our grandparents, our kids who deserve that. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity. And that's why Mercy Ships follows the 2,000-year-old model of Jesus to bring hope and healing to the poor around the world, especially those in the West African region. That's where at the moment we are still incredibly busy, even during the pandemic. We provided PPE, protective equipment, clothing, thermometers and training to medics and hospitals in 11 of the poorest African nations. We're still doing so. We have been partnering with organisations like Cure International to provide children's surgery for children with disabilities and the poorest families. And we are finishing in the final stages of the world's largest charitable purpose-built floating hospital, the Global Mercy. It's going to be 2 football pitches long, and all of that training will happen on board. I'll give you one story to help illustrate that. There's a doctor called Patricia Eyoop, and she was trained on board one of our ships. She was a doctor, but she'd never been involved with surgery. And over 300 surgeries, many of which she was the lead surgeon for, she learned how to give sight to the blind, how to remove cataracts. And now she's able to do 2,000 surgeries without any support whatsoever. She had the ability, the gifting. All she needed was that extra support and mentoring. And that's what we're about. We're not just about going in and doing operations with our wonderful volunteers. We're about leaving a lasting legacy. So how can you get involved? Well, we'd love you to go to our website, mercyships.org.uk/premiere, and that's where you can sign up to pray or get resources for your church. You can give a gift that's going to save a life, deal with a burn, or remove a tumour, or repair a cleft lip. And of course, you can volunteer, or at least say you're thinking about, praying about going out to the ship in 2022. Not just one ship, but by next year we will have 2 ships in service, providing hundreds of free surgeries to those who need them most. And I want to give you an example of what that looks like. Here is the story of the lovely little girl called Fifalina.
Nanomboka tamin'izy roa taona. Ohatran'ny hoe nianatra nandeha zany izy dia ohatran'ny kapoka kely izay fotsiny dia mivilana ilay tonga dia azonao. Fa izy io zany tamin'izany teraka anazy normal tsara. Dia nentina tany am-pianarana izy dia mbola afaka nandeha izy tamin'izay. Fa nisy fotoana izy zany ohatran'ny hoe nianjera tany am-pianarana dia nanomboka tamin'izay izy nanomboka mivilana amin'izay dia tsy nahazaka ny tena intsony ty tongony ty lohany ty aty.
Still to come on Sunday Night Live, a celebration of the contemporary woman from Michelle Guinness. Preparing for the future, how churches must become climate aware. And Psalm 23, movingly sung by Peter Howarth, the lead singer of the Hollies. But first, a call to all dads from a man who enjoys being a dad so much that he's full of ideas that he thinks other dads might like to try. All the ideas are to be found in his new book, 52 Faith Adventures for Dads and Their Kids, written by Andy Frost.
Hi there, my name's Andy Frost. I'm the director of a charity called Share Jesus. But I also get to work with Care for the Family on something called the Kitchen Table Project. This project looks at how we can best inspire our children to have a faith in God. I've got 2 kids, aged 9 and 7. And I've got many dreams for them. I dream that they're going to have good friendships. They're going to find a job they really enjoy doing. But ultimately, my hope, my dream for them is that they actually have a faith in God for themselves. But the challenge is, how do we best inspire our children to know more of who God is? I think often we can think it's the church's job rather than our job. And the church has come on in so many ways in delivering some fantastic children's work. But instead, I think each of us plays a role. It isn't just about delegating it to the church on a Sunday morning for an hour a week. But it's looking at how we can pass on that baton of faith in the everyday of life. I love these verses from Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 6 to 7. Moses is speaking to the people of Israel. They are about to enter into the promised land. They'd seen some incredible things from God. And in this moment, Moses says these words: "These commandments that I give you today are to be upon your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up." There are 2 things I particularly love about this passage. First of all, it isn't a commission just to the Levites, the priests, or to Joshua, the next leader, but it's to the whole community. They all get to be involved. And second of all, it isn't about just special moments, special religious ceremonies, but it's in the everyday of life. As you're sat at home, as you're going for a walk, as you're going to bed, as you're waking up. It's about being intentional in the everyday of life. I hope my kids will have a faith in God. There are no guarantees with this stuff, but I think we get to play a role in planting seeds of faith into their lives. One of the things very practically I've done is written a book called 52 Faith Adventures for Dads and Their Kids. The idea is to encourage more Christian dads to look for those opportunities to inspire faith in the everyday as we have adventures with our kids. The Christian faith for me isn't just about believing things in our heads, but it's about an adventure that we go on with God. And part of launching this new book, we're doing some Zoom calls. We have something called the Dad Adventure, where you can join me and my kids for 20 minutes on a Friday over Zoom if you're a dad with kids under 11, to do some live adventures and some pre-recorded adventures and some competitions. Check out the promo tape. Hi there, my name's Andy Frost. I love 3 things. First of all, I love adventures like this. I also believe the biggest adventure of all is following Jesus. And thirdly, I love my kids. I've combined these 3 things for the 52 faith adventures for dads and their kids. Check this out.
As Christians, we are called to act as stewards to care for God's creation. But it seems that we're making a pretty poor job of that at the moment, when we are being warned that we are on the brink of devastating changes in our climate and our environment that will make a real impact for the worse on future generations unless we act now. Now, churches could have an important role to play in our response to that threat, and Climate Sunday is an initiative to encourage all Christians to play their part. The Reverend David Coleman is eco-chaplain to 500 churches across Scotland, and he's encouraging them to make a positive and constructive response in this time of threat and uncertainty.
Thank you, Pam, for this opportunity to talk about Climate Sunday. That's the title of a lively campaign across the spectrum of churches in the UK and Ireland in response to the UK hosting the 26th United Nations Conference on the very, very urgent threats to the beautiful balance of the way this planet works. Now, we use the word climate as shorthand for a terrifying heap of linked emergencies: extinction, the loss of habitat and biodiversity, the accelerating rise in sea levels, and in the incidence of extreme weather events. And it's the peculiarity of what it means to be followers of Jesus that leads us beyond mere concerns into a life lived in abundance with love and a prayerfully active and joyful concern for justice for every creature. Jesus expects us to be able to read the signs of creation, and the signs that we'd understand as climate are definitely included in that. Now, God doesn't just manufacture lifeless objects. Every creature is created to offer praise. And remember, Jesus intervened as directly in the life of the wind and the waves as he did when he spoke to human beings whose lives were out of kilter. No surprise there, for God makes both. And Jesus directed our gaze to the short, hard life of the birds, the splendour of the flowers. He showed we should learn from the trees, and he led his disciples to recycle the skills and gifts of the life they had known hitherto for the sake of the good news. And the good news at the end of Mark's Gospel is not just for us, but for every creature. The service churches are being invited to celebrate this year is an opportunity for long-term healing, change, growth, mission and outreach as the church learns to come into its own. The church as people of hope beyond hope, letting others see the good they do, that they may praise our Father in heaven. So, Google Climate Sunday, and you'll get to a page with abundant resources for praise, preaching and celebration. What you choose and how you do it depends on the gifts and treasures of your own location and tradition, though there are 3 emphases. First of all, worship. The church with psalms must shout, "No door should keep them out." Let everyone know that you're celebrating a Climate Sunday service. And this can be any time before the national service in Glasgow on the 5th of September, which will bring all the churches and their contributions together. There is material for Anglican and other traditions. I've written material for Presbyterian or Congregational or URC churches. There are some brand new, very profound worship songs and links to Bible readings and hymns. Worship, then commit. Make a holy promise to yourself and as a church to try at least some of the really easy stuff, like changing all your light bulbs to low energy, turning church grounds into a haven for wildlife, reducing waste in all sorts of ways, feed the hungry, get clothes to those who need them. How about no more single-use plastic in church events? That's easy enough, but have you done it yet? Make sure you enjoy what you do, because that way you'll keep going and others will join in. Worship, commit, and finally, speak out. Churches do have very varied relationships with political leadership, but broadly speaking, we will want to encourage and show our permission for government to give leadership in choosing a blessed direction, which shoulders the costs and spreads the load of the changes that are going to happen for the good of the whole beautiful planet, this home we share, the church as it were, where life gathers in such abundance and such variety, to praise the God who makes us, loves us, sustains us, and calls us by grace into action for his name's sake. Thanks for listening, and have fun with Climate Sunday.
The Lord's my shepherd, I'll not want. He makes me down to lie in pastures green. He leadeth me the quiet waters by. My soul he doth restore again, and me to walk doth make within the paths of righteousness, even for his own name's sake. Yea, though I walk through dense dark vale, yet will I fear not ill, for thou
My table then has furnished in the presence of my foes. My head thou dost with oil anoint, and my cup overflows. Goodness and mercy all my life shall surely follow me. And in God's house forevermore, my dwelling place shall be. Goodness and mercy all my life shall surely follow me.
Peter Howarth there, the lead singer of the Hollies, with his version of Psalm 23, words of scripture that are very familiar and shared by those in the Christian and also in the Jewish faith. Now, Michelle Guinness has a unique insight into both traditions because she grew up in a practicing Jewish family, but she later went on to become a Christian and even married a vicar. She's well known as a broadcaster, of course, and has written many books to which she usually brings a large dollop of Jewish humour. And that's certainly true of her most recent book, The Contemporary Woman, which takes a fascinating look at the role of women in the Christian world today. So with her reflection for us on Sunday Night Live today, we welcome Michelle Guinness.
Hello, it's really lovely to be with you. My name's Michelle Guinness, and in my lifetime I've witnessed one of the greatest revolutions in the history of the West, the change in the status of women. I can hardly believe now that many moons ago I looked at my husband-to-be with the love light shining in my eyes and said, I will stay home and darn your socks and iron your shirts. In point of fact, he opened the doors for me to work full-time, to become a senior manager, to write 14 books, to raise 2 children, and to occasionally do a bit of baking and cooking for church events, as the minister's wife is supposed to do. I was raised in a Jewish family, and Judaism is very matriarchal. The women rule and the men do as they're told. And I didn't really like the sort of manipulative behaviour of the women. For example, my father would bring home flowers every Sabbath because he was in deep trouble if he didn't, and that didn't strike me as a love offering. So I became a Christian at 17 and thought things would be very different in the church. And of course they were. Women there were very much second class and very passive. And I soon discovered that I was seen as far too upfront, Jewish, New York, because I never got a boyfriend. I was just too frightening for all the men. There was a stereotype that you had to be very quiet and very demure and very nice in order to be feminine. But thankfully, I did find the right man in the end. But I ask myself these days whether much has changed. Do women really have the freedoms we thought we were fighting for? Can we really, as a church, show the world what respect for women looks like? I mean, we've had not only the hashtag #MeToo, we've had hashtag #ChurchToo, where the stories of abuse against women in the church have just been horrendous. We've had revelations about leaders who've abused their power. And now we're seeing that in education, young people are being abused, even in the system. And it's really quite frightening. And it still feels as if it's quite hard to be a woman in this world. I mean, men can walk through the world as freely as they like, but we have to be jolly careful. We don't have quite those freedoms and feel as safe as they do. After the murder, the tragic murder of Sarah Everard, Sir Keir Starmer said that for the abuse of women to end, we needed to tackle inequality at its root. Now, for us as Christians, the root of equality or inequality starts with the creation story. God creates man and woman with such love out of mud and clay. And I think he thought, wow, what an object of beauty I have made, and they're going to be so good for each other. Woman is made in Hebrew an ezer kenegdo. Ezer means helper because the words are translated helper suitable. And helper actually is a lovely word. It's used in the Psalms a lot for God. God is our helper, a refuge, and our strength. In other words, he rushes to rescue us. And for men, that's like having Wonder Woman in their orbit. It's a wonderful description. Kenegdu, translated suitable, isn't very accurate. In fact, neged means opposite, and kenegdo means standing boldly opposite, face to face, eyeball to eyeball, to challenge the men if necessary. And guys, you really do need it, because, if women are depressed, we shop, and if men are depressed, they have this tendency to go to war and look around the world and see where the tin gods are in China, in Russia, in Myanmar, in Syria, these men who are obsessive about power, and there's no sign of a woman anywhere. And that is not what God intended. But we failed him. We didn't live up to the standards he set for us, we disobeyed, and as a result there are consequences. There usually are, aren't there, to wrongdoing. And the scriptures tell us that despite all the difficulties of childbirth, woman's desire will be for the man. Now that has been interpreted as sexual desire, which isn't true at all. I mean, which of the genders have the most problem? And it doesn't appear to be us. And in fact, if you look at the way the word tesuka for desire is used elsewhere in scripture, it tends to be gravitational pull. Our gravitational pull, girls, is to please the men. We don't like to say no, we like to love and care for them. And that's how we have ended up. And because of that, man shall dominate you. That's the consequence of our behaviour. Now, let me put it like this. At 6 p.m, an alarm goes off in our home. My husband has on his phone that it's time to go and help the wife with the meal, peel the carrots and the potatoes. And he arrives, and I look at his little face, and I know it's the last place he wants to be. And he said, "Do you really need me?" And I say, "No, my dear, not at all. I can manage on my own, because I see you have something more important on your agenda." And off he trots, and I stand there fuming, the passive martyr at the sink because he hasn't come to help me. But you see, that's not how it was meant to be. And God had another idea, and this is how it looks. My friend Angus Bell, who's a psychiatrist, sums it up like this. While women have an unhealthy need to please, men have an unhealthy love of power. They have a tendency to see woman as a passive but desired object, there to service their needs, and I would add stomachs and a lot of other things besides. But they must surrender their power, men must, as Christ surrendered his at the cross, so that woman can be the strong and powerful partner God created her to be. I love that. It's fantastic. Not easy for either of us, but great, isn't it? Now, I have 5 grandsons. I have a granddaughter too, but these boys, I really want them to grow up in a world where men are not seen as an enemy or a threat, but a much beloved ally at work and at play and in sharing the gospel with the world together. I would like to see our churches as a place where women are respected and where we enjoy, men and women, each other's differences and company enormously, where we're equal in every way, be it in the pulpit or at the kitchen sink after a shared meal, men and women standing together, where we tell stories of female trailblazers and pioneers against much opposition. I want my grandsons to see what it looks like when men and women respect one another, love one another, and work together, equal and in harmony, where we model what the kingdom of God really looks like to a world that needs to see that so much.
Well, our thanks to Michelle Guinness for her reflection on the role of women in Sunday Night Live today, bringing the programme almost to an end. We do love to hear your comments, so if you'd like to share them online so that others can respond, or if you'd like to contact us direct, well, you'll find the details of how to do that at the end of the programme. But in the week before our next Sunday Night Live, it will be Ascension Day on Thursday, the 13th of May. And that's when, as Christians, we recall how Jesus ascended into heaven 40 days after his resurrection. So we will be holding that thought in our prayers now and in our final hymn. And from me, Pam Rhodes, take care of yourselves, won't you? And I wish you every blessing until next time. Bye-bye now.
Philippians 2 tells us, "Therefore God has highly exalted him and bestowed on him the name above all names, that at the name of Jesus every knee should bow, in heaven and on earth and under the earth. So forgive us, Lord, when we become rooted in earthly things, unable to see beyond the present. Lift up our heads that we may see Jesus in all his glory. Risen, ascended Lord, you're not absent from us, even in departure, so accept our humble thanks. And as Lord of Lords and King of Kings, we acknowledge your greatness and your authority. So we ask you to strengthen our faith, stir our imaginations, and equip us all for everything you would have us do. Jesus of Bethlehem, Galilee, Gethsemane, and Calvary, lead us from darkness into light, from death into life, and walk with us, and through us be glorified now and forever. In Jesus' name, Amen.
And if you've enjoyed Sunday Night Live, don't forget to press the subscribe and like buttons so that your device will offer you future editions each week, and recognise that this is a programme of interest to you and others.